Hi there, it's Mike Thornton from Pro Tools Expert, and today we're going to take a look at the new Waves WLM Plus loudness meter. Waves have just released a new version of the WLM called the WLM Plus, and in essence what it adds to the original WLM is this true peak limiter section. So unlike Avid, who basically took a peak limiter and added a loudness meter, what Waves have done is taken their loudness meter and added a true peak limiter. And the really neat thing that they've done is to make sure that the threshold of the true peak limiter, so when I turn it on, the threshold of the limiter is automatically set to whichever standard you're running. So in this case, in this instance of the meter, I'm running on EBU R128. And in this instance, I'm running ATSC A85. And the A85 spec, the maximum true peak is to be no more than -2 dB FS, whereas on the R128 spec, the maximum true peak can go as high as -1 dB FS. So the true peak limiter automatically is set to the appropriate true peak maximum for that particular spec. So you don't have to worry about setting up a limiter and maybe one day you're working with one standard, the next day you're working with the next standard and you make a mistake, because the WLM will set it correctly for you. So that's what we have there. So again, we just hit reset on both of those, and what I've got is two tracks here, the same program, exactly the same mix going to them, but I've got one track which is going to be processed by the EBU R128 settings and another track being processed by the ATSC A85. So if we go into record, and you can see here that it's showing blue in the short-term loudness because what it's doing is it's actually under the recommended amount, the recommended loudness for the short term. And you can see that what I've done is I've picked up the automation for there is an automation setting in the WLM Plus which gives us an automation warning setting. And so what we can do is with the WLM Plus we can actually show with automation where the loudness, the short-term loudness, is going below the minimum, and you can set these here. Waves, when they were designing this, went away and talked to a lot of users, because these settings here for short-term maximum, short-term minimum are not written into the standards like R128 and A85. They discussed it with users and then came up with these particular settings, but they are only there as recommendation. You can go in and adjust them should you want to, so I can push that up to -16 should I want to. And you can already see that the R128 track has quite a lot more low warnings, short-term minimum warnings, than the ATSC A85. And effectively there's only 1 dB difference between the threshold between the short-term minimum on the R128 and the A85. I suspect most of the reason for this is actually because the short-term integration, so the time over which it averages out the loudness to get our short-term figure, so it watches the momentary loudness and averages it over a number of seconds. And in the case of the ATSC 85, the default setting is 10 seconds, so it's averaging over a slightly longer period. Whereas with the EBU R128 spec, it is permanently set. You can see I can't change it. It's permanently set to 3 seconds. So rapid changes in loudness will throw up these short-term minimum warnings. And again, remember, these are only advisory. They're there to help you establish where in the mix things are getting too loud or too quiet. They're not there as standard requirements. They're just there to help. And then if and when things get a bit loud, what we'll find is that these go red. And then as you can see, when we're in the right ballpark, we get these nice green ticks. So you can see here we've got a nice green tick because we're pretty well in the ballpark for the EBU R128 with -23 LUFS. And then on the ATSC A85, we're working towards -24 LKFS. And you can also get this numerical count here of the number of unders and overs. So you can see all the unders here, so you don't even need to look at the automation chain. You can see that there were a number of unders. And so we can work our way through that. And then when we get points where it goes over, then that count will pop up.
The other noise also is
So
there.
it's really, really useful. And you can see there we're going red. It's warning us that the short term has gone above our settings that we're suggesting. But again, these are purely advisory. So you can work your way through and mix the program. And then what we'll do now is to jump towards the end of the program, and you can see how things change at the end of the program.
The twilight hour.
Coming back with their laborers sitting on the car.
Now we'll skip now towards the end of this program, and just a couple of things I want to show you before we get to the end. You've got the option of hiding these settings, because in essence if you're working to one of the standards that we have as default settings, and you'll find most of the standards that any of your broadcast clients are going to be wanting to work with in here, once you've got those settings, in essence these are just telling you what the settings are set to, so you can just hide those out of the way without any problems at all. And you can also add presets. So you can add a preset, and so in fact I could make this one with limiter. And so now when I go into the load menu, you can see that it's down there as a user preset.
Who were working in the fields, they are returning back as well. So
you can see here that we are doing a little bit on the high side. So the trim is saying actually when you finish this program you might need to trim it down at the moment by minus 0.9 of a dB for the R128, and the ATSC A85 it's suggesting that we might need to trim it down by minus 0.7 of a dB. So if we just hide those a moment, so yeah, you can see the different automation lanes that we had for unders and overs. So you can see that we got one over for the R128, and then we just had a couple of unders for the ATSC A85 and no overs. So now that we've finished this program, you can see that effectively for the R128 version we are very slightly high. So we can use this trim button. So just simply clicking the trim button automatically adjusts the gain control by the appropriate amount. And then what I could do is to play this all the way through again with that gain trim, and it would come out. But obviously that's a real-time process. It's going to take a little while. So what I can do is to go into presets, copy settings, then go into Audio Suite and open the appropriate version in Audio Suite, so WLM Plus stereo. And now what I can do is paste settings. So there's all the settings including the offset already loaded in. So all I now need to do is to select that piece of audio, hit the render button, and it being an Audio Suite plugin, it's rattling through in high speed to actually produce the finished rendered product, and this should be absolutely bang on the nose. And there we go, minus 23, so we're just a smidgen over at minus 22.8. So we can use the offset that it was recommended. We can copy the settings, go back to our Audio Suite version, preset, paste settings, select the ATSC A85 file and render. So that's how we can get our delivery standards absolutely on spec using the new WLM Plus feature with the added true peak limiter and gain trim option. I'll see you next time.